Gaya, thanks for finding time to meet with me today. I really appreciate it. I'm excited about the work we're going to do together this year, this being our first meeting and all. But before we get down to business, when you left Friday, you were telling me that your family from Katy was coming this weekend. How did that go?
They got all settled in with my in-laws. So they're settled in, which is a good thing. And they want to go back because of work and everything, but they need to pause for a moment and let the water kind of go down. But it was good to see the nephews. So thanks for asking.
Yeah. Well, sometimes we have to really think about that so we can put that to the side for a minute and focus on our work. So today we have probably about 20 or 25 minutes, I think, left in your conference period. So we're going to get right to work.
Okay.
What we're going to do today is we're going to go through the eGROWE coaching frame. And you might have seen the video I published about what coaching looks like this year. I just want to tell you really quickly what it's going to look like so that you know what to expect.
Okay.
So we're just going to start off today by talking about what goals you might want to set today. We're going to talk about how it actually looks in your classroom right now so that we really know where we are and where we're going. Then we're going to brainstorm options to get to your goal, and then you're going to commit to one of those options, and we'll think about how will we measure that success by looking at evidence.
Okay.
So that's what we're going to look at today. So you have a copy of this that you can refer to anytime you want.
Okay.
You like to know what's coming next. Sometimes I release
thank you.
anxiety in some people.
Okay.
So what's one thing that you can celebrate? Thinking about the last week of school, the last week, which was our first week of school, what's something that you can celebrate?
Well, I teach 7th grade science, so I have like 7 class periods, and so my middle schoolers are just really trying to figure out their way around building, and they're just trying to fill me out as well. So something that I can celebrate is that I had some routines in place for my kids, and I'm starting out pretty good with them. I have them sitting in groups of 4 inside the classroom. So everybody is on a seating chart and they know where they sit. So I think that that's a good thing for my kiddos.
So you've already put a lot of time and effort into establishing some routines and procedures for your kids to help them transition into your classroom, knowing that every class is different.
Yeah.
They have lots of different teachers and they all have different expectations. So you've already put a lot of effort into that, trying to make that transition for them as easy as possible.
Yeah. I think that's necessary because they already have to memorize their locker combination, got to figure out their lunch code. It's just a whole lot. So just really want to streamline it for my kiddos so that when they come in, they have consistency.
Okay. So I'm thinking about our work today. What's something you were thinking about that would be a good thing for us to work on today? You know, you already have your strength established. So what's something that you might want to work on or accomplish today in our session?
Well, as I shared a second ago, they are sitting in groups of 4 inside the classroom. I really want to find a way that my students have roles because in 7th grade science we do a whole lot of labs, right? And so since we do a lot of labs, it's going to be critical for them to know what supplies they need to get and then how much time we have with what we have, so that they can put those supplies back up before my next class comes in. Because I don't have time to go and try to straighten up behind a group of 25 students and then get ready for the next class. It's just, it's too much on me.
Right, so you're thinking about what are some ways that you can establish roles that will help your classroom run really efficiently?
Yeah.
Okay, so if we take a look at our T-test rubric, I think what you're talking about is going to be in dimension 3.1. Okay. That's in the learning environment. So you turn to page 10.
Okay.
This will help us guide our work. This helps us have a certain set of standards that we can look at, and it helps us to make goals that we can actually reach and measure those goals.
Okay.
So if we look at the rubric, you'll see that it's blacked out at the top what the ratings are, because I don't want us to focus so much on ratings right now, but we want to zone in on best practices.
Okay.
So if we look at the descriptors are the parts that are bulleted. We can see some things like what are some things that are just popping out as descriptors in this dimension?
Well, it says all procedures, routines, and transitions are clear and efficient. Okay. And I'm looking at that middle.
Okay. So routines and procedures. What else do we see?
I'm looking at students actively participate in groups, manage supplies, equipment, and with very limited teacher direction. I see that one. Okay.
And then the last one we have that's safe and organized, right?
Mm-hmm. And it supports the learning objectives and is accessible to most students. Okay.
So you verbalized that you wanted to have roles to help your classroom be really efficient. Do any of these descriptors kind of fit what you're thinking about?
Yeah, they do. That second one really might be kind of, no, that second one is what I want them to do. I want them to manage supplies.
Okay, and the manage supplies part specifically, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because this descriptor says students actively participate in groups, manage supplies and equipment with very limited teacher direction. So you're really wanting to zone in on the manage supplies and equipment with limited teacher direction, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if we think about, that's the goal that we want to get to,
Mm-hmm.
and let's kind of just check out what's in your head. Think about, well, how's this happening so far, or even how did it happen last year? What was your reality in this? How close did you get to this? What did that look like?
Well, you know, I have a new group of students, so they change from year to year. And it took me a little bit of time to get them kind of where I wanted them to be. So just where I am now with my kids, I'm thinking that we're like right here at this other bullet where it says student depends on teacher to direct them in managing student groups, supplies, and or equipment. Because it's the second week of school, I am doing a little bit more kind of setting the foundation for them. So right now, that's where I am.
Okay. So the difference between those two is one is limited teacher direction and one is the teachers directing them. And so what you express is that at the beginning of the year, it's pretty typical for the teacher to first direct.
Yeah.
And now you're thinking about how can I transition to the students taking the responsibility for that.
That's it.
Okay. So if we're thinking about that, what are some options that you're considering when it comes to having your kids be in charge of supplies and managing the equipment? What are some options that you're already considering?
Well, in some of my previous years, I would have like an anchor chart inside the room. And so that anchor chart would have student roles on there, and I would point students to that anchor chart, you know, to remind them. So I can do that. And so in the anchor chart, it'll just have like a role for student time, a timekeeper, a team leader, someone to actually go and get the materials, and then I would have one for an equity manager. Those were fixed. I want those roles to rotate, so that each kid will have the opportunity to serve in that capacity. So I'm thinking I might do that because that's my go-to.
Okay. Well, let's think about that a little bit more. So you had your anchor charts where you had what the title of each role was, and then what happens in that role, or what the responsibilities are in that role.
Yeah.
So how well did that work for you? Did that get you to completely where you wanted to be last year with the kids taking total accountability for their roles?
I think that I still found myself kind of reminding the kids, hey, remember, if you're in this role, then this is what you do. So maybe what I could do is have my kids to like reflect on their work in that role.
Okay.
Maybe I can have them do that.
Like some self-assessments?
Yeah.
Okay. And whenever they needed reminders, do you think that was a reminder because they just needed to be held accountable for their work, or was it reminders because they were unsure of a part of their job?
I think that the reminder was they probably were unsure of their role, because, you know, I would have those kids serving in one role for a long period of time, and then it was time for them to switch. Then they didn't really know what to do. So maybe I can have the kid who previously served in that role to kind of teach them, hey, I was a team leader, this is what I did, and so let me support you on that. So maybe I'll do that.
So it sounds like you're thinking about some ways to help the students transition. It sounds like you're doing some job training, right? Some job training.
Yeah.
So you already have the idea for whenever they transition to their new group, what the training will look like. It will be a peer training. So what about the training for the initial round? What might that look like? What support would the students who are initially in that role, what support might they need in understanding what to do and how to do it?
That's a good question. I know that beyond the anchor chart, then maybe I can have like a short little video for each one of them to watch, right? So if I'm having a video of of me just like sharing with the kids what they could be doing, those videos can be utilized again once they rotate to a different role.
Okay.
And in addition to the peer coaching, so that might be a way, and then it doesn't take away time from the class because I only have 45 minutes with them. So.
And that could also be their tool for their self-assessment, right? To look back at the video of expectations, and then they have some kind of little rating or reflection system based on what the expectations are in the video.
Yeah.
How are you meeting those standards, right? Maybe so. Okay, so we've talked about quite a lot today. So we talked about having the anchor charts with the roles. We talked about having a system in place that students can self-assess their work to make sure they're doing quality work in their roles. And we talked about, in the training phases, having videos of the expectations at the beginning of the year. And then every time they switch, they also have access to the videos and they have peer training. So of those options that we consider today, which one would you like to really zone in on?
Right, because they all sound outstanding. Well, I know that I can do the anchor chart for sure because I have those from last year, so I can bring that in. The next layer I can do is do the videos about the roles, and they are going to be like really short, but I can add that in. So yeah, I can do those for sure, and then I can figure out about the job coaching.
Okay.
Like when I want kids to be able to do that with their peers. So
it sounds like your immediate steps are to build your anchor chart and to create your videos for each role.
Yeah.
Okay. So in thinking about that work, we have a few different options about what our work in action will look like. And that's on this little blue chart.
Okay.
And what this is just a way for you to decide on what level of support do you need through this process.
Okay.
So I'm thinking about making your anchor chart and your videos. Do you think that you might need modeling, co-planning, co-teaching, observation with feedback, or can you work independently and then debrief with me later? Which one seems like your level that you need?
I'm thinking about the observation with feedback because I already know how to do the anchor chart and I know how to do the videos, so I just need to implement that with my students. And so I can observation with feedback. You can come in and kind of observe and give me some feedback.
Okay. So would you want the observation to be on your rollout of this, or would you want the observation to be on the kids doing their jobs?
Very good question. I would like for it to be around the kids implementing it.
Okay. Yeah, because that's our end goal, right, is what they are doing.
Yeah.
And that will help us backtrack to see, do we need more work on this, or is this something that we can move on to your next steps? Okay, so observation with feedback. Okay. And what evidence could we look at next time to see how we're doing, how we're progressing on this goal?
Right, so evidence might be, one could be just my students actually working in like a 15 to 20 minute block in those roles.
Okay.
And the decrease in clarity. I don't see a lot of kids raising their hand and saying, Miss, I don't understand what we're supposed to be doing. Miss, where do I get my supplies from? Miss, how much time do we have left?
Okay.
Those kind of things.
Okay.
Like the misses would be decreased.
Okay. So it sounds like actually our work in action can also be our evidence, right? So when I go in to observe you, I can be collecting the data about who's doing their jobs, who's asking for clarity, and kind of marking those down.
Yeah.
And then that data can be our evidence.
Yeah.
In this case. Okay. So given that you're prepared to implement this, when can I come in to do this observation and feedback? What day and time would work for you?
Okay, so today is Monday, and I see my kids every day. I need a little bit of time to get these videos together. So the anchor charts are no problem. Videos is going to be the thing. I can get them up and going by Wednesday this week. And so once the videos are up and going, then I want to show them to my students on Thursday. And then I want them to start serving in the roles like tentatively on Friday this week.
Okay. So do you want to have a couple of days for them to practice the roles before coming in and observe, or
that's
do you
a
want to
good
see
thing.
right at the front?
No, I want them to practice a little bit.
Okay.
So what about Monday next week?
Okay, next Monday. And
Because
what
Friday they
periods?
can practice. I want you to come to like my high flying class and then my emerging class.
Okay.
So let's go with never first period. Well, I'm not gonna say never, but just not right now, not first period. Let's go with second period
Okay.
and sixth period.
Second and sixth.
Mhm.
Okay, so I will come in the second
On
and sixth
Monday.
period on Monday. Okay, so we've discussed a lot. We've done actually quite a bit of thinking and decision making in today's session. Can you just rephrase what we did, just to make sure that we are in alignment with our understanding of today's coaching goals and action steps?
I know that I really want my students to be able to work in their roles so that they can manage their own supplies because we do a lot of labs. So I'm going to implement the anchor charts and then videos of student roles so that they can see what their roles are supposed to be, and that no matter if you are transitioning from one role to another, it'll be clear. You're going to come and observe my class, actually my second and sixth period class next week on Monday, because I have some work to do this week. When you observe the class, you're going to just look at my kids and make sure that the decrease of misses, I don't understand this, miss, and so on and forth, is going to really help in those roles. And so that's kind of what I gathered, and I know that, you know, it's connected to this best practice that's right here in the rubric around students actively participating in groups, and they manage their supplies with equipment, and it's very limited teacher direction.
So that's what we're trying to get to, is that very limited
Yes.
teacher direction. And so the evidence that we come back to next time our coaching conversation is going to start with evidence.
Yeah.
This means that we're going to bring back the evidence, and that's going to be the beginning of our conversation. And we'll look at the data we collected, and from that period we'll decide, are we continuing on with this goal with some different strategies or next strategies, or are we going to go on to something else?
Okay, sounds good.
So Gail, what have been the benefits or the value of our conversation today?
Well, one is I get to talk through something that I really want to implement, and I know that it's going to benefit my kids. It's going to benefit me, because seeing a different set of kids 7 periods throughout the day, I want to preserve my voice. And so this is going to help me. So I just needed to think through it and make it a reality.
Yeah, so the action steps that you already outlined are really going to help the kids to learn how exactly what your expectations are and how they can manage it. It also gives them some sense of responsibility and the understanding of this is their classroom too, not just yours. So it's sharing the responsibility with the students.
Yeah.
So I will see you next Monday on the 2nd.
All right.
The
Sounds
second
good.
period. Yep. Have a good afternoon.
Thanks, you too.
Hi.